So for those of you who might be new or visitors, or for those of you who have not heard, I would like to let you know that this week a beloved member of our community, Yvonne, committed suicide, leaving behind a beautiful young adult son, Jonah. And many of us in this room today are holding complex grief and loss. Faith, according to the writer of the letter to the Hebrews, is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things unseen. And it feels like a particular challenge to preach about hope and conviction this week. What do we do with a call for hope in the face of grief and uncertainty? I may hope, and just because I don't see, apparently that does not let me off the hook for practicing more hope. But also in reading the scriptures later this week, I felt petulant and angry. I want to see my hope. I want hope to be clear and simple and grabbable. These days, I am exhausted by complexity and mystery and invisibility. I want to come before you today with words that alleviate suffering, and I do not want to have to always be ready all night long. I want to go to sleep and have Jesus make an appointment. I want him to text me with an ETA when he's on his way so that I can be ready quickly and easily and rest. I want to see the things that I hope for. And yet, clearly, this is not how our God is interested in behaving. Our God springs up in unexpected places and at unexpected times. And it is not my job or the job of any of us to make sense of all of the things. It is not our place to decide or judge the actions of others. Our job, apparently, is to wait and hope, to be ready, to grieve when we are sad, to care for one another, and keep our eyes peeled for the barest glimmer of hope in the dark nights. Grief, for sure, comes at unexpected hours, but so does hope, and so will love. And when love does come bursting in the middle of the freaking night without warning, without an appointment, without a helpful text, that love apparently will knock us off our feet and sit us down and feed us a feast of wild and fresh hope when we thought the nights were too long and too dark and too lonely. And while we live and while we wait, we remind each other, the fellow servants sitting in this hall waiting for hope that will arrive. We sit and we remind each other that nothing separates us from the love of God. That no matter what we have done or what we have not done, no matter what diagnosis we carry or what thoughts we have, we are loved by God. And there is nothing I can say that will make one's death any less tragic. And that too is not my job. It is not our job to erase the pain and the grief of this world with denial or platitudes. It is just sad. And I will miss her. What is ours to do is to care for one another as we wait in the night for the master of the house who is love. What is ours to do is to reach out and be kind and tender to one another, to be curious and patient, to remember that kindness is never wasted, especially on the nights that we strain our eyes for hope. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things unseen, but then we see unexpected things. This week we saw pictures of a cartwheel galaxy from the Webb telescope, and who knows what else there is that is unseen, that is glorious and beautiful. And then the following day, we see things like the heart of a grieving child, and it is enough to break us. And those days, I don't want to see any more unseen things. This Faith feels like it leaves us stranded between the seen and the unseen, adrift in scanning the horizon for hope. It is challenging this week for me to read this gospel. Do not be afraid, little flock. Be dressed and ready for action. Have your lamps lit. And where your treasure, your heart will be also. It is so much hopefulness and so much light in this gospel. And I want to trust and I want to not be afraid. But in Luke, this verse about treasure is not the you, but the y'all. Properly translated, the Gospel of Luke would say, where y'all's treasure is, that's where y'all's hearts are going to be. Or maybe yous guys, depending on where you grew up. This week, I have been swamped with grief and gratitude in equal measure. The gratitude I feel for the kindness and the tenderness of this community that have reached out for help. Yvonne's neighbors, Tracy, Cass, Barbara, literally everybody on Facebook. People are saying, how can I help? How can I help? And that is what love looks like in action. In the weeks to come, we will do the 10,000 things, because death comes with a lot of paperwork and details. We will care for Jonah as best as we can. We will do our best to remove the obstacles on his path, and we will sit with him in his grief, and it will not be enough, and we will keep doing it anyway. Our treasure is our care for one another. Our treasure is in hands ready to lift and hearts ready to pray. Our treasure in this world is the beautiful and fragile people we walk alongside of. Yvonne was our treasure. Jonah is our treasure. You are our treasure. You matter and you are loved beyond measure. And our treasure, it turns out, is where we find our hearts also. And so we come here today and we pray and we sing and we kneel. We break the bread and we say the prayers and practice believing in things unseen. We practice compassion. We practice looking for hope on cloudy days. And we practice treasuring one another. Amen.